Are you ever in class and that same guy puts his hand up to answer a question for like the fifth time in a row, and he doesn't really care if he's right or wrong? He just likes to talk. He likes to be acknowledged by the professor. He wants the classmates to acknowledge his intellect. Or you see those people in the streets wearing the most obscure clothing, which basically scream, "Notice me." People like this usually have weird connotations around them, like being arrogant or being a show off. But do you ever stop and wonder why they do that, or why we even have these negative connotations of them in the first place? And it's not like everyone doesn't fall victim to being like this either. Maybe in a more discreet way, but it seems like every single human has this need for acknowledgement. The need for this acknowledgement might come from the fact that we're all just creative creatures at heart. And while collectivist social norms and society tend to repress this a little bit, we all still need this creativity. Whether it be through your own creative thoughts, whether it be through art or music, we have this need for creation, and we also need to have this creation acknowledged by other people. This unique creativity that every human possesses might be the only potential way to share our unique and individual consciousness to other people. This makes it a matter of identity for us to need to express this creativity. Like Jean Paul Sartre touched on this as well. He believes that because we don't have access to the consciousness of anybody else, we tend to objectify them. We identify people in terms of characteristics or traits, and we kind of disregard this idea that everyone has such a unique and complex consciousness that we can't categorize people into such simplistic traits or personalities. And the fact that we know that we do this means that other people definitely do it to us. So humans have decided that the best way to cope with this idea that we're being objectified is to express our unique consciousness to be acknowledged as a unique consciousness. And the best way that we've found to do this is through creative endeavors. Our thoughts, our creations, our unique traits are the only way for us to separate ourselves from the monotonous monolith of a crowd. And with the creation of the internet linking us to more and more people every day and perpetually monotonizing our interactions with individual people, we're constantly being reaffirmed into this concept of the collective human rather than the individual human, which terrifies us. That's because, as previously stated, we're all unique, we're all individuals, and we have unique consciousness. And if we're always being thought of as a collective human by others because we think of everyone else as a collective human, that's so scary. Like we're just ignored. Our individuality is ignored. No one's paying attention to us. We're just seen as like everyone else. We're with the crowd. We're monotonized, as I said before. So we've answered why we need recognition in the first place, why it's kind of an innate thing in every single human. But the next question is, why do we deem some actions for recognition as kind of ugly and repulsive, and why do we deem some to be completely acceptable? You don't find an artist creating an art piece as disgusting or repulsive, or you don't have negative connotations around that. But the guy we mentioned who puts his hand up in class to answer 5 questions in a row, the person that wears crazy clothing, or the person that just seeks for attention, why do we find that weird, and like the artist or the musician not? Well, the answer that I've come to is that there's two different modes or forms that people can express their individuality from. I've named them the virtuous way or the ugly way. So, the virtuous way is the authentic expression of our creativity, done for our own enjoyment of that creative endeavor. We embrace and enjoy this expression not only for the recognition of others, but to the opportunity to bask and revel in our own authentic consciousness. The beauty and virtue of this comes from one doing their authentic expression for their own recognition first. They don't do it for the recognition of others. And it is their own authentic expression. They're not doing something that they don't want to do for the recognition of others. They're doing what they want to do first. And while we still do need outside recognition from people, the virtuous form of expression doesn't require it to exist. First comes their own expression and their own recognition, and then the outside recognition comes from that. It's that way around. It's expression, self-recognition, and then outside recognition. It shows security. That's the beauty of it. And the ugly reason is basically the opposite of that. The ugly form of expression is when somebody does anything which is completely inauthentic for the recognition of others first. It's very easy to tell. People just do things for attention. The person who puts his hand up in class, he does it for attention. He doesn't actually do it to express his intellect or his ideas. The person who dresses crazy, you can tell when someone actually enjoys fashion, but you can also tell when people are just trying to grab attention. That shows insecurity. People are just begging for the attention of others. And the reason it shows insecurity is because if you need the recognition of others to validate yourself, then you don't value your own recognition. That's such an ugly trait to have. That's why it's the ugly version of the virtuous form of expression. It's so disgusting to see people do it. So while it's a pretty simple concept, it's kind of hard to discern because of how complex human psychology is. the best way to get recognized for your authenticity is to be authentic. You don't want to be different. You want to be authentic. You do your own thing to show your individuality. You like art, you like music, you like fashion. That's individual authenticity. That's fine to express, and people will recognize that as you want them to. That's normal. However, if you're just doing anything to be different, that is ugly, it's inauthentic, and it shows resentful insecurity. I'll even put myself on trial for this. I obviously try to not do the ugly form of expression, but I'm insecure as everybody else is. I want people to think that I'm smart. I want people to think that I look good. I want people to think I do things more than I actually want to do the things themselves. I look for recognition from others before I look for my own authentic expression. It's normal. The most important thing about stuff like this, about philosophy, about learning, about psychology, it's not so you can psychoanalyze some random people like, oh, he does this wrong, she does this wrong. It's so you can psychoanalyze yourself and stop yourself from doing this. I can even give an example. When I was like 12 or 13 in school, I was in the school library and I saw this book. It's the Nicomachean Ethics by Aristotle. I didn't read that much. I just played video games most days. I was failing most of my classes in school. But I saw Aristotle. I was like, oh, that's a smart Greek philosopher, right? I look so cool if I pick up this book. I look so smart. I look so cool. There's a word, I forget it, from Dostoevsky. Precocity. There you go, write that down. That means like young development. I would have such precocity if I read this book. So I carried this book everywhere for like 5 weeks, pretending to read this shit. I'm like, self-indulgence, worse than incontinence. I didn't even know what incontinence meant. I still don't, but I just tried to look smart. That's an example. Like, I love to read now. You can see me reading all the time. I have books on my table. I have a bookshelf right here. I have everything. I even have like my old school books that I run through every once in a while. I love to read. That's authentic. That's a virtuous form of expression. And I yap about books all the time. That's what my channel is about. But this is the ugly form of expression. I didn't read because I like reading. I read because I wanted the recognition of others that I was smart. It's ugly and it's insecure. You can see it all the time nowadays as well. Like those white girls that post Instagram stories and it's like a book with one quote on the page. And they think they look so cool posting it, Like, oh, look at me, I read so much. But like, Tina, we don't care. We don't care about your book. We don't give a shit. Read an actual book. Read Dostoevsky. Like, hell, I'm so tempted to go on a Dostoevsky rant right now. This book right here. It's mirrored, The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. This is a very short Dostoevsky rant. I could talk about that book for 12 hours and I wouldn't scratch half of the topics. It's literally an encyclopedia. I had an argument with my dad about Dostoevsky. He was like, no, Dostoevsky's a writer. I was like, Dad, Dostoevsky is a theologian, he's a philosopher, he's a psychologist. He is a writer, but his writing is so exquisite because of all those things. So I want to talk about like the Grand Inquisitor. Everyone loves the Grand Inquisitor. Everyone glazes it. It's so great. It's the best part of the novel. Like, no, that's the point of the novel. It's not the best part. It's theoretically the best part. It sounds theoretically the best, Oh, the church supports Satan. If God doesn't exist, everything is permitted. We love to say that stuff theoretically, but it's not what we actually believe. Like, Ivan went crazy because of that. He said something that he supposedly believed. It happened. The murder happened. And then he went crazy. Everyone needs to follow Alyosha. I'm a basic bitch. I like Alyosha. I love Alyosha. The best character. Someone gives you the great atheist argument as to why morality shouldn't exist or why the church supports the devil. I'm not Christian, by the way. Kiss him on the lips. That's what Alyosha did. Alyosha is just so great. If you can think of one thing, it's just the love. That's the point of the Brothers Karamazov. It's the biggest point. Love. There's like a quote from Father Zosima's Recollections. It's like, if the whole world is against you and the whole world hates you, be the last one to love. Still love. Always be loving people. Do it to your dying breath. I think it's in the Bible or something. I'm not very well read in the Bible. But oh my goodness. Brothers Karamazov is great. I read Crime and Punishment and Notes from the Underground. I have his 5 big books here. Here it is. I gave my friend Crime and Punishment. He's not reading it though. The Idiot. That's my next book. So right now I'm reading like The Count of Monte Cristo. I don't know. I have my books here actually. Yeah, we'll go through a little book thing. So I'm reading right now. Find them. Oopsie daisy. Count of Monte Cristo. I'm in the middle, actually not in the middle of that, I'm a quarter way through Count of Monte Cristo. Nausea. I want to finish that by this week. It's so cool. I just love that idea. I talked about Sartre in this video, I think. You know, my friend bought me this for my birthday, the Iliad. He got me into chess as well. That's why I'm not reading as much. The Iliad, obviously I'm reading the Odyssey right now because this is ADHD right here. I picked up this book, Ulysses by James Joyce, because I'm Irish, so I need to respect the Irish brothers. I picked up Ulysses thinking I could read it, and then I found out, oh no, I have to read like 20 other books before I understand Ulysses. I'm not gonna understand that shit at all, bro. I barely understood Moby Dick. And apparently Moby Dick is like a 20% difficulty rating. Ulysses is 2. Brev, are you serious? So I'm reading the Odyssey for that. I'm revising the Bible. I'm gonna read Dante. And who else? Milton. Milton's Paradise Lost. I need to read that. What else am I reading? I am reading, I picked up my first Kierkegaard book, Fear and Trembling. Hopefully I'm gonna read more of his books. And my friend got me this book by Bulgakov for my birthday. Oopsie daisy. Bulgakov, The White Guard. So I'm gonna read that. It's a really cool book cover. It's my second favorite book cover in my collection. For some reason, everyone buys me hardbacks. I don't know why. I always buy like Wordsworth because they're €5. Well, that's the Dostoevsky rant of this video done. Maybe I'll do it in another video. Now, it must be said, thank you for the Dostoevsky rant. By the way, I love talking about Dostoevsky, and my girlfriend never lets me talk about Dostoevsky to her. But back to the main video. It must be said that a lot of people can become resentful of these people that are authentic enough to express themselves in their own individuality. And these resentful people, they're not confrontational enough to say it directly, so they judge everyone. People, the judges people, the people who love to judge everyone. Oh my goodness. Everyone hates them, but everyone is them. You know, we hate to talk about people who are judgy, but then we become judgy. The reason people are like this is because they hold the bonds of conformity sacred. Not because they actually think that, but because they're terrified of people judging them the way that they judge other people. So they stick to that. It's like a pathological loop that people go through. So it's so important to make sure to not be like that. You know, make sure you don't lie to yourself saying, oh, this person's doing the ugly form of expression. They're being inauthentic, whenever they're just doing their thing and you're just resentful of them. Be so careful about that. These resentful people are probably uglier and worse than the people who do the ugly form of expression. It's just harder to find them. They're like the underground man from Dostoevsky's book. Resentment is probably the most ugly and the most horrific of all human emotions. It's been touched upon by like Nietzsche, Dostoevsky, by all the major world religions. I'll probably make a video on it in the future, actually, if anyone has any video ideas. But anyways, to wrap it up, from the uniqueness and the individual human consciousness, how unique our consciousness is. We are such complex minds, and everyone has this complex mind. We need that to be recognized. That's completely natural. The best way we found to get that individuality recognized and have our consciousness recognized and to prevent being objectified by other people is through a creative mode of expression. Creativity is probably one of the most authentic ways in which people can express their consciousness. It comes directly from the consciousness. However, when you want this recognition, you need to be so careful that you do not do the ugly form of expression, which is when you seek for the recognition of others first before you do anything. You just attempt to be different without being authentic. It's insecure and it's ugly. Compare that to the virtuous form of expression. You do your thing. You do what you authentically like. Everyone can tell. You can tell when someone authentically likes their thing. You recognize yourself first, and other people will recognize that eventually. Some people will be resentful of you, completely normal. Just disagree with them. Ignore them. They are lying to themselves. They're lying to you. Do the virtuous form of expression. That's the most important thing. If you guys have any ideas or critiques of this video, please send them in. You know, I was probably dropped on the head as a baby. I'm not that smart. If you guys have any ideas or critiques, please let me know. If y'all have any book recommendations, by the way, yeah, I like you. Please drop that. I'll make another video soon. If you guys have video recommendations, say that as well. Testing 1 2 3 1 2 3. The need for this acknowledgement to repress this is slight. Of identity for us to have this. The fact that we cannot have access to any Fuck. Unique consciousness is through creative matters. Boom, hear me? Stop the rodeo, let's go. Getaway cars and then the portfolio. Through creative expression. I said that wrong.